Thank you, Anne-Marie. I thought that was, hey, what do you think about the cheesecake? Did anyone not have any? Did anyone have 2 pieces? You have 2 pieces? Okay. Well, let's get started. I thought it was kind of lame when you asked a couple of questions about are you ready for a great talk, and some of you sit front table did great, and the rest of you I thought you were going to take a nap. Napping's okay. If you need to take a nap this afternoon while I'm speaking, just put your head down and don't fake it like this, but just take a 5-10 minute power nap. And when you wake up, your learning buddy will brief you on what you missed. So with that, you each have a handout, and let's get started. We're going to begin. I'm going to give you a 2-step writing process. And step 1 is clarifying thoughts before writing the draft. You've all heard this before. How many of you remember in school being asked to write an essay and include with your essay the outline you used to think through the content? How many remember that? How many of you first wrote the essay and then manufactured the outline? That is what most people do. If you would, make a note to yourself. Clear writing is clear thinking. Many of you want to write clearly. The way to do that is to think clearly. I've had over 55,000 people through my writing seminars. I have never met a person with a writing problem. But I've met 55,000 people with a thinking problem. And that's basically what it is. If you would, please make a note. At least clarify your key points. That if you want to cut down the writing time, if you want to make the writing process more manageable, if you want to make it easier, find your list of key points before you begin to write, because invariably you'll have a list of key points. If you don't list those before you write, what happens to your key points? They get buried among paragraphs. So we'll take a look at the clarity of what is business writing. So we'll talk about keeping a business perspective. We'll look at the difference between the way readers read and the way writers write. You've all heard write for the reader. I'll give you my take on that. If you would, please circle these 2 needs in blue. If you're normal, you tend to do things to your writers or to your readers that you wish they would do to you when you read. So we have needs as writers that get in the way of the needs we have as readers. And so you have 2 thought systems that do not communicate to each other. We're going to play with those thought systems this afternoon. Also, if you would make a note, if you would circle these 2 processes. The process you use to become clear on content is not the process you use to report on that content. So you need to separate them. We'll look at that. And then finally, we'll play the game of Rambling Rose as a writing process. And if you would, with your learning buddy, based on this name of Rambling Rose, what do you think this process is like, and to what extent do you use it when you write? So please talk to each other. What is the Rambling Rose writing process, and to what extent is this your process? You've got 30 seconds.
By the end of the paragraph, you don't know what they started out.
So let's come back together, and who defined this? Anyone? What is the Rambling Rose process? Let the readers figure it out. That's exactly what the outcome is, absolutely. So how many of you write as you type as you write? You've got to write an email, you've got to write a report, you've got to write procedures, some technical document, and you sit down at the keyboard and you begin to type as you think it through. And so you type, and you begin to add words and sentences, and how many of you do that? Okay, how many of you don't do that? How many don't want to play this game? Okay, this would be the process of the masses. So whether you're a senior executive or an intern, whether you have a PhD or you have a 12th grade education, people are more alike than different when it comes to writing. And in my experience, most people, when they have to write something, they begin to type. So we'll take a look at that as the process of round rows. And the solution would be step 2, frame your ideas in one of these 3 models. I think I began working with my father back in 1975, 76, and it took me about 7 years before I realized everything you write on the job can be presented in one of these 3 models. So think about these as you add content to your message, you go from model 1 to model 2 to model 3. And if you would also just make a note that clear writing is clear thinking framed for the reader. So let's begin, if you would, on page 1 with this idea of keeping a business perspective as a writer. So, they all have pencil, pen? If not, you can share one with your learning buddy. But if you would, please write a definition. What is the essence? What is the nature of business writing? When you sit down and write anything on the job, what are you about? So please define that. And if your mind goes blank, look at your learning buddy's answer scripts. Good music. That's called good research. So what is the nature of business writing? And then if you would, quickly, please share your definition with your learning buddy. That person sitting next to you. Would quickly share your definition. So one idea would be that business writing is conveying information in a clear, concise, professional manner. Something like that. It's about conveying information. How many had something like that? Conveying information, getting your point across, getting your message across. A couple things about this that writers need to remember. When people pick up what you send them, regardless of what it is, a letter, a memo, an email, a draft of a proposal, report, initially they do not care about your information. So please write this down. This is a note to self. Is this true? Yes. If it is true, what do readers care a great deal about? Absolutely. How my information affects them. Are these different? Absolutely. So we can say that business writing has 2 parts. Number 1 would be information. There is content that you need to convey to people. And if you would, please make a note that from this day forward, you think about information as being a list of key points. Background is a list of what? Background is a list of chronological events, yes? Reasons or rationale would be a list of reasons. And so a lot of what you write about would be a list of things. The second part would be the business application of the information. That's part 2. And if, as a writer, if we are not clear on either of these 2 parts, communication does not take place. So, you could make a note that part 1 is the context for meaning for a writer's mindset. That a writer begins with this idea of information. And that's true. The context for meaning for a reader would be the business application. What does this information mean? So you could make a note in part 2 that until readers know how the information affects them, they're confused. And that's just the way it is. So a definition we're going to use is this idea that business writing is a tool for getting things done. Because when we talk about getting down to business, we're talking about doing things. Take care of business, we're talking about doing things. And you have business in your personal life and your business life. So the question is this definition primarily from the mindset of the reader or the writer? Whose thought would speak this definition? So with your table, if you would, answer that question. Whose idea is this? Is this a reader's idea or a writer's idea? So talk to each other. And it's not both. So what do you think? What do you think? Let's vote. How many think this was a writer's idea? Please raise your hand. And how many think this was a reader's idea? And you're absolutely right. When it comes to this idea, writers are on the planet Pluto. They're on a different page. We know this in two ways. As readers, where do you want this information? Top, middle, or bottom? As a reader. Absolutely. If you would, please make a note. This is paragraph 1 stuff. What you want people to do is the first thing readers want to know. Is that true or false? And just listen to yourself talk. Because if you say, no, it's not true, then there's some confusion. So where do most writers put this? Top, middle, or bottom? Bottom. In fact, we're going to find out with random rows, writers will take the most important thing to the reader and put it in the most difficult to find place. In the middle, in the bottom, in the middle, sometimes in 2 places. So we'd say, that's crazy. Why would you do that? We do that because it's the outcome of random rows. We also know that this is a reader's idea because writers begin with the idea of conveying information. Writers believe in FYI. They think it's real. But what do you do as a reader when you're reading something and it appears to be FYI? What do you do with that? How many of you stop reading? Absolutely. You could, at the bottom of page 1, just make a note to yourself, FYI is a kiss of death to the reader. Now, how true is that? How true is that? Just check with your learning mode. When you're reading something and you've got a meeting in 5 minutes and you pick up an FYI, what do you do with that guy? So just touch base. Is it true that FYI, from a reader's point of view, is almost useless? So touch each other. Just see what your mind says. Interview your mind.
Right. But he's saying that kind of like background information in the top. Some people don't like in a business setting, they don't care. Right to the point. Exactly.
I'm 16.
Yeah.
FYI.
Right. Yes. In the beginning, they don't care. They're like, why are they telling me this guys are right. Yes, exactly. So you put that in the top?
So let's go back together, please.
I do, but I put the reasons that they're in front of like the first sentence you'll see there.
So if you want to be read, if you want to be read, you've got to keep a business perspective. And what does that mean? If you would, with your learning, book, just share what does that mean to keep a business perspective? So 30 seconds max. Answer that question with your learning buddy. What does it mean to keep a business perspective? If you want to be read, you've got to keep a business perspective. What does that mean? Touch each other.
Conservative time. For all that other stuff too, it's different context, not in email. Exactly.
So what it means is to talk about what needs to get done. So to keep a business perspective, what you do is you put what you want to get done in paragraph 1. That's what you do. It's not about making it relevant. It's not about making it interesting. It's answering one question. What do you want me to do? Now just enter into your mind and ask yourself, is that true? And if the answer is no, then you've flipped into the writer's way of thinking, because that's a totally different way of thinking. The difficulty with writing is we have two different criteria of what it should look like and what it should be about. But readers definitely want to know, what do you want me to do in paragraph 1? So, this is not in your handout, but this is the lieutenant commander in the Navy came up during break and said, this is really about managing my boss. So the slideshow here is about that. We see a continuum of communication going from unclear to clear. And when we match this up on productivity, no communication, things do not get done. Most people with rambling roads will be somewhere along this spot in this continuum. And when you write emails and all kinds of documents, taking yourself and your readers on your journey of discovery, this is what we end up with. We end up with a pile of unreadable FYI, CYA documents that get nothing done. As you begin to move this clarity to this continuum, you begin to increase productivity. People can actually take what you've read and do things. But it's about doing. And so when you have a critical mass of people who are ready to get things done, things do get done. So let's take a look at the difference between the way your readers read and the way your writers write. So on page 2. We are under tremendous competition for attention time. You're in meetings a lot. You come back to your work area. You are inundated with tremendous competition. At the top of the list would be emails. And if you would just write down how many emails do you get a day? And just share that with your table. How many emails a day?
Oh, yeah, mine are
So, how many do you have, on an average, how many do you have 200 emails? 150 or more? Okay, 100? Okay, yeah, you get a lot. Along with, and it used to be back in the 80s that you could manage email with about 25% of your workday. An hour in the morning, an hour in the afternoon was sufficient. Some of you can remember those days. Now, it's all day long. How many of you were doing emails last night before you went to bed? And how many were doing emails this morning before you left for work? How many of you have some sort of smartphone or BlackBerry that you're in constant contact with them? So we have it all day long, like 8 billion emails a year. Along with emails, we have voice messages. Electronic, absolutely. How many of you go back to your work area, you boot your email up as you put your voicemail on Audible? Did you do that? Multitasking, so to speak. So we got this stuff going on. There's an invest of paper documents that you're reading. How many of you read as you talk on the phone? You're reading something, the phone rings. How many of you, you're writing and the phone rings and you continue to try and write that final thought? And how well does that work? Not too well. It depends who you're talking to. Tell me more about that. That sounds interesting. Oh, no. So you can fake your mother out? There's somebody.
Remember I told you this?
Right. We have a telephone. So the telephone rings and you're reading, you're writing. Walk-in visitors? You're multitasking, you can't speak to that person in your sign language, come in and sit down, I'll be with you in a minute. We got all this stuff. Post-it notes are big in some work areas. This could be a strategy. You see someone leave their cubicle and you go slap a post-it note on you. Do any of you use it that way? But you come back after being gone half a day, the edge of your desk, the back of your chair, and if people are first born, where do they put their post-it notes? On the monitor, on the keyboard, on the seat of the chair, on the telephone. They attack your tools. Right? So before you become functional, you've got to pick it up. Fax messages are alive and well, a little old-fashioned, but still we use them. We could have today what's called cubicle constructive eavesdropping. In a modular environment, you've got some colleagues talking, you feel compelled to listen and then join in. How many of you read as you're talking to your colleagues? A lot of us do. Somewhere on this list you have an agenda. All of us have things we want to get done before the day is done, and we often feel that we cannot do our own agenda until we wade through this never-ending source of constitutions. And we could add things to this, but givens.